So hi, boys and girls. So with everything going on in our society right now, with all the craziness, I'm sure you've heard in the news, we're just basically we're really caring about one another and each other's rights. And I thought it would be nice to do united hands, showing people of different culture. This is just a symbol of being united and working together and not against each other. And I just really believe in our Constitution that all men are created equal, and I think it's so important that we treat each other that way. So with that, I thought it would be fun to show you how to draw hands that are grasping each other. Also, how to use crayons to create this lesson. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started now, and you can be thinking about what two skin tones you want to use, but before you do, I'm going to give you some hints. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is just start with one arm coming into the picture, pretty much in the middle zone. I sometimes will take an eraser to kind of draw my first lines in like this. That way, if I don't like them, I can just wipe them off and draw again. So you might consider doing that. It helps. The next thing, when you are drawing your first arm, remember it's going to be slightly narrower at the wrist and slightly wider as it disappears off the page. You don't want it to be a huge difference here, just a little bit different, okay? So there's my hand. Something I want to point out on the thumb is that there's basically three lines on the outside edge: a long, a medium, and a short. And when you're drawing those, if you remember that, you'll get some nice lines. And I'll point that out to you today. A long, a medium, and a short. So three angles. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Now, to start this hand, we're just going to come up with the long one first at a slight angle. We're not going to put the other ones in until we get the other hand in. Okay? And then the other one here is just going to be a slight angle going down. Now, what are we talking about? We're talking about this angle out here and this angle this direction. So out, out. This one's going to be shorter. I'm going to draw really lightly right here because this line that you're going to see right here is going to disappear. It's going to be an overlapping line where the other hand grasps that one. But in order for you guys to see this, I have to press hard. So I have to actually go in here and press pretty darn hard. I don't want you to do this. Press as light as you can because it's really hard to erase a dark line that's overlapping. So here's my angle up. This is my angle down. This is my wrist. My arm's going off the page from narrow to wider. Then I'm just going to take this line and bring it at a kind of a flat curve here. And remember, you're going to do this lightly. This is where it's going to go up. Okay, because what's going to happen here is I'm going to put in another hand. So I want my hands to be pretty level with each other, not a lot higher, not a lot together, just kind of show two people of more equal value. And then I'm just going to start with the wrist right here, and I'm going to angle it off the page. Okay, I want my wrists to be similar in widths. They don't have to be exact because they're two different people, but I'm not trying to do like a child and adult. I'm trying to do two people that are equal in age or similar in age. Okay, you can see that here. There's not a lot of difference. If I want to, I could just bring this line in. Same thing, pressing really lightly. I wish I had that advantage, but I can't do it, and you still be able to see it. Okay, so now what's going to happen is one hand is going to grasp the other hand. So I'm going to come back up to here so you can kind of see where we're going. This is one arm. This is the line we drew here. Okay, this line up here is where we're going to get the hand and the thumb in, show the little knuckles here and the fingers. So what we've got here, and what will make this easier, is to put in the left hand first. So we don't want it to grab right at the ankle. At the wrist. We want to come in from the wrist and angle out like this. So there's our first line. Okay. And then what we're going to want is three short lines for the spaces. Basically, you're looking at these spaces right here in between the knuckles. Okay, so 1, these are all parallel lines, by the way. 1, okay, 2, and 3. Now, what you've created here is 4 fingers. Can you see that? So this is 4 spaces here. If this one is a lot larger than the others, all you would have to do here, like mine is I'm just going to take this line and I'm going to angle it in, because that's actually the pinky, and if anything you want it narrower, not wider. So I erased here and I'm just going to draw that line in. So that is the pinky here. Now, fingers are not flat. Right now we've got them flat. We have to show the thickness of the finger where it wraps around the other hand. So this is where you have to erase. My line might not erase as well as yours, but all you're going to do here is show the thickness of the knuckles reaching around the hand here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So those are those 4 knuckles here, right around the hand. Okay, and then here we've got our wrist. Now, the other person's hand, all we're going to see is the fingertips coming around. So if it's this hand, the first one right here is going to be the pinky. So it needs to be the smallest. And if you look at your fingers, you guys, always remember that even when you fold it, this one here is usually a little bit longer, and this one here is a little bit shorter. These two are usually similar in length, and you'll see how I do that. So here's my smallest finger, okay, nice curve. Then I'm going to get a little bit taller, okay, and even taller. Now, this one can be narrower, but these should all be similar, and this one should be similar. Okay, so this one should be tallest, this one should be smallest, these two should be similar. Now remember, these fingers aren't flat either. So we went short, medium, medium, tall. Okay, this is just your fingertips, just so you know. Then we're going to show the top of the knuckle by curving these lines. Again, you're going to need to erase. Now, these could be more oval than this. It really wouldn't matter if they're more round or more oval. If you made them a little bit longer, that would still look good, just so long as they curve. Okay? Then all I'm going to do is just give the feeling of a little fingernail at the tip of these with a U shape. Okay, so those are my little fingers from this person's hand wrapping around. This is showing it to the knuckles. So all we've got left is the 2 thumbs here on top. Now remember what I told you about 3 lines on the thumb? Long, medium, short. So we're going to put that one in first. So this line here should be the longest. This is coming off your wrist. Then this one here should be a little bit shorter than that one. So does that look shorter than that line? I'm okay. The next line has to be shorter than this one. So you want to make sure you don't get it so short. And usually this one angles down more. This is where the thumb comes across. So if you look at these and you look from here to here, and then from here to here, and then from here to here. Long, medium, short. If you can get that, it's going to look good. Then this is the bottom of the fingertip curving around. And here's the little chubbiness of your finger thickness. And this is where it crosses the other one. And you usually will see, you know, a little bit more chubbiness there. So I'm going to just bring that around. Okay, so this is where it's grasping into the hand. Now, this is where you would adjust it. If you thought this should be bigger, maybe you thought this line was a little bit low, I could move it up. If you thought it would look better, a little thicker there. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking just a little bit less curve here. This is the fingertip. So what am I looking at? I'm looking at these lines here. So there's actually kind of the chubbiness of your finger right in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a little fingernail in here. So here's my finger, as you can see it coming off. And here's the cool part with this one. All you have to do is just kind of show it disappearing behind because it's on the other hand, on the other side. So there I have my 2 hands grasping. I want you to see it here. Here's my 2 hands grasping. And here's my 2 hands grasping. Okay, so what's important is the thickness here and the thickness here. and the 3 lines here and the 2 curves here. There, you can actually put another one in here if you want to show a little bit more chubbiness in the hand. That doesn't really matter. Make sure you have some nice dark lines if you are not going to color it. Okay, these lines here, this angle here should be really parallel to this angle here. You'll see here that this line is very similar. I hope you can see that. Okay, so here we go. Here's my lines. I'm all set here. Now, I would have done this really lightly. Now, the key to this lesson when it comes to coloring it, I'm going to come back here. This one right here, I used blue, brown, and yellow. This one here, I used a golden yellow. I used a little bit of purple, a little bit of pink. So you're probably like, you did? Well, what happens is your eyes can actually mix colors, and people of all different races, you guys, nobody has perfectly white skin or perfectly black skin. That just does not exist. We really are just a bunch of different shades of brown. Everybody's a different shade of brown. We have light brown, dark brown, reddish brown, bluish brown, greenish brown. Every color that you can imagine is in skin tones. And if you said, well, you know, I'm white, you don't have white skin. That doesn't exist. If you said someone is Indian, they don't have red skin. They have a redder tone to their skin. So different people have different colors in their skin. And if you really looked at skin tones, it's quite fascinating. If you are an artist of skin tones and portrait work, you really understand how different skin tones can be. So for this lesson, I'm just going to pick 2 skin tones. This one here is a little more yellowish tan, and this one's a little more medium brown. I'm going to do these ones differently because I think it's fun to do that. I'm just going to start with a brown crayon. Now, this obviously probably wouldn't be the lightest skin tone if I'm starting with a brown. But I am going to do that with this one. And your line here won't be as dark as mine if you're going over pencil line. And really press hard with your crayon here, like as hard as you can, okay? And this is just my first hand, okay? So that's this hand over here too. So this one I'm just tracing it, pressing as hard as I can. You break your crayon, actually not a problem, okay? Now, you have to think about the fact that hands are not flat like pancakes, so you always want to do some shading in it. So it's really a cylinder on your wrist. So if you shade here diagonally, always shade diagonally, and shade here diagonally, you're already going to start looking like the wrist is more round. Then you can lightly fill in between, and you'll notice that I usually do it diagonally because then you don't get these ugly vertical and horizontal lines. It really fills in the color, and it'll usually always look better if you color anything, color pencils, markers, chalk pastel, anything. If you color it in diagonally, you won't get these funky vertical and horizontal lines that do not exist. Okay, so what you want to do is just kind of fill the color in. Now, by making the edges darker, I already look right now like I'm a little more rounded. You can really see that here where it's darker here and lighter in the middle. Darker here, lighter in the middle. So with that, right now, I really don't like that skin tone because it's kind of flat. It doesn't have much color in it. People have color in their skin tones. So watch when I do this one, when I add just really lightly. I'm not going for blue skin, you guys. When I add a little blue into it. Okay? Now, if you get too much of a color and the skin starts to look blue, you have to add its complement to make it turn brown. So here's an example. Here's blue. Way too blue, but if I add orange to it, it starts to muddy up the color and look more brown. If it looks too orange, then I add more blue, and I'll start to get kind of a brownish shade. I'm not going to press that hard. I'm just going to add a little bit of orange in the skin to make it look less blue. A lot more interesting, a lot less flat. Now, if I add a bunch of yellow into a skin, the way to neutralize the yellow is to add its complement, which is purple. And you can tell that I take a lot of the yellow out of it. So if I added some yellow into the skin, I could lightly add a little bit of purple in it. Oh, so much more exciting. And if you really look at people's skin tones, you guys, you can see little blue veins. You can see kind of yellowish tints to it, green tints to people's skin. People always go, green? I go, yep, there's a lot of green in a lot of people's skin. A lot of that has to do with your ancestors. You don't pick your skin tone. It came from your ancestors and where they lived in the world. And so we all have different skin tones based on that. See how I'm just putting in a medium brown here? How much more interesting and exciting that skin value is than this one? This one looks kind of boring and flat. This one is a lot more interesting. Now, if you decide that you want to do an even darker skin tone than this, maybe you're doing an African American who has darker skin. Some African Americans are lighter, some are darker. But if you really wanted to darken it up, I'm going to challenge you, don't use black. Okay, just keep adding more color into the skin and it'll keep darkening. So if I added more blue into the skin, because I wanted to make the skin value darker, because the person that I wanted it to represent was going to be darker, you're going to notice how I'm going to get it too blue. Still doing that whole diagonal thing, okay? Getting a darker skin tone. Well, it's way too blue. Nobody has blue stripes in their skin. So I'm going to go in now and add some orange into it to diffuse how blue that was, because it was just way too blue. But I'm darkening the skin at the same time. After I diffuse it pretty well, I can even go back in with my brown crayon and help blend the colors together even more. And I'm going to start getting even darker skin tones. And you can really see that here. It's a lot more exciting. It's more interesting. And honestly, you guys, it makes your people not look flat and kind of boring, like one color people. Because there is nobody in the world that is one color. I'm going to just tell you that right now. Nobody's skin is one color. It does not exist. If you want good skin tones, you've got to be a master of layering skin tones. Okay, so a lot more exciting. You could keep working on it. You could go in with a reddish rusty color and add it in. Just really have fun with it. Using pressure, you can get it a lot darker, like this. The more pressure you put, the darker the color is. Quite fun. Anyway, I can really have a lot of fun with this. So you can see how I did that here too. This one right here, if you look at it really closely, you can see little bits of purple and with the yellow and the golden. I think this skin tones quite nicely. Notice how I darkened the edges of the arms. I darkened in between the fingers. If you look at my fingers, it's darker in the cracks. To make it look darker, I darkened around the edges here. I darkened all the edges of the hand so the hand would not look so flat. I darkened the edges of the nail. The bottom of the hand would always be darker, more shading. If you didn't think it had enough, you can always go back in and add more. Now, you can do this exact same thing with paint. But most of you don't have a lot of paint that's available to you at home. So that's why I'm using crayons, because I think crayons can do a really good job. Oil pastels do a really good job. Chalk pastels do a really good job. Markers are a little harder to blend. They really are. They're probably not my favorite for the skin tones. I probably wouldn't go to markers. You could go to colored pencils, though. That would be awesome. See how I'm adding the gold with the brown? I do want to encourage you, the lighter you draw, the easier it is to blend the color, because you just keep layering it and layering it and layering it and layering it. And if it starts looking kind of liney, go the opposite direction. It'll then look a little bit more like woven fabric, and it'll really tone down that opposite direction. And if it's really bad, you can take an eraser and just kind of soften it a little bit and swirl it with your eraser and soften the color. You can see how I did that there. There's a lot of wax in crayons, and it's not that hard to move. Some people even use their finger to kind of blend it out. But you've got to have a lot of wax crayon to be able to do that. Anyway, good luck with this, and I hope you guys have fun and really play with your skin tones. It's quite fun. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.